The twin sons of Caldris 9 cast amber shadows through the violet canopy, as Rhea Calder moved through the forest with practiced efficiency. Her boots made no sound on the moss-covered ground, her movements economical as she gathered deadwood for the night's fire. 3 months stranded on this alien world had stripped away everything soft about her survival instincts. Out here, hesitation was death. She knew she was being followed. The sensation crawled up her spine like ice water, that primal awareness that humanity had carried from Earth's ancient savanna into the stars. Rhea didn't pause in her work, didn't give any sign she'd noticed. Instead, she cataloged the sounds, the subtle displacement of air, the faint scratch of claws on bark, the controlled breathing of something large trying very hard to be quiet. Something young. An adult Caldris apex predator would have already struck. These creatures, the xenobiologists had called them Vorash before the colony fell, were 800 pounds of muscle, fang, and tactical intelligence. They hunted in coordinated packs, used the terrain to their advantage, and had wiped out half the settlement before the survivors scattered into the wilderness. But this one was learning. Learning to stalk, learning to hunt, learning on her. Rhea added another branch to the bundle under her arm. The stalker shifted position, moving to flank her from the left. She could almost picture it. Maybe 200 pounds, all gangly limbs and oversized paws, its mottled gray-green hide helping it blend with the forest. Probably separated from its pack, driven by instinct and hunger to practice, on what it thought was easy prey, the human woman, soft, slow, without natural weapons easy. Rhea let it believe that for another 30 seconds while she calculated angles and distances. Then in one fluid motion she dropped the wood, spun on her heel, and locked eyes with the creature. Cub Varric froze. He had seen humans before, of course. They ran screaming when the packs came. They fired their bright weapons that burned and stung. They huddled in their metal shells and whimpered. But this one was different. The female human stood perfectly still, her body language transformed. Where there had been soft, vulnerable movements, now there was coiled steel. Her eyes, those strange, forward-facing predator eyes, caught the light and held his gaze without flinching. Her lips pulled back slightly, exposing small, flat teeth that should have been laughable. Should have been. Then she made the sound. It started low in her chest, a rumble that built and built until it erupted from her throat in a growl that made every instinct in Varric's young body scream danger. It wasn't the sound of prey. It was the sound of a challenger, the sound of something that wouldn't run, wouldn't beg, wouldn't break, the sound of something that would fight. Varric's haunches dropped slightly, his ears flattened. The growl continued, reverberating through the clearing with a harmonic that spoke to something older than language, older than civilization. It spoke in the vocabulary of Earth's ancient predators, lions and tigers and wolves and bears, species that had fought their way to the top of their food chains through pure, distilled ferocity. Humanity had carried that legacy written in their DNA across light years of space, and Rhea Calder was fluent in its language. The growl faded, but the woman didn't move. Didn't break eye contact, didn't show fear. She simply stood there, radiating a calm, lethal certainty that redefined every calculation running through Varric's young mind. He had stalked wrong prey. Slowly, deliberately, Rhea bent and picked up her bundle of wood. Her eyes never left the cub. She watched as his body language shifted from hunt mode to something else, something that looked almost like confusion. Then, making a decision that would have seemed insane to any other stranded colonist, she turned her back on him and began walking toward her camp. Every prey animal runs when you turn your back. Predators know this. Varric knew this. But the human woman just walked away with steady, unhurried steps. No fear scent, no panic. Just absolute confidence that she was not worth the risk of attacking. And something in Varric's developing brain recognized a fundamental truth. Real strength didn't need to prove itself. Real dominance didn't need to attack. This human had established hierarchy with a single sound. And in the complex social dynamics that governed Vorash society, that sound had weight. Without fully understanding why, Varric took a step forward. Then another. Rhea heard the soft footfalls behind her and allowed herself the smallest smile. She'd gambled on everything she'd observed about these creatures over 3 months. They were pack animals. They understood dominance displays. They responded to confidence, and they were smart, enough to recognize when they'd met something they didn't fully understand. By the time she reached her camp, a cave mouth fortified with sharpened stakes and a carefully maintained fire, the cub was still following at a respectful distance. Rhea added wood to the fire pit, then sat with her back against the stone wall. She pulled out her ration pack and began eating, making no aggressive moves, no threatening gestures, just existing in her space with absolute authority. Varric circled the camp perimeter, testing boundaries. The human made a soft warning sound when he got too close. Not a growl this time, but something that communicated the same message. "This is mine." He retreated to the acceptable distance and settled onto his haunches, watching her with intelligent eyes that processed and learned. 3 hours passed. The sun set and Caldrus IX's 3 moons rose in sequence, painting the forest in silver and blue. Rhea remained by her fire, occasionally throwing the cub a small piece of dried meat from her dwindling supplies. Not as submission, not as appeasement, as a pack leader shares with a subordinate. When the larger predators began their nightly hunts, their calls echoing through the forest, Varric moved closer to the firelight, closer to the human. Rhea didn't object. She simply adjusted her position so she could watch both the darkness and the cub simultaneously. By morning, when other survivors would eventually find Rhea Calder's camp, they would find something impossible: a human woman and a Vorash cub sleeping on opposite sides of a dying fire. An understanding written between them in the oldest language of all, the language of respect, the language of survival. The language that said humanity hadn't conquered Earth through technology alone, but through an instinct so deep it transcended species, planets, and stars. The instinct to stand firm, to growl once, and to make the universe understand exactly what it was facing. A predator that learned to walk upright but never forgot how to bare its teeth.